Have you ever wondered what you would do to save someone you deeply love? Once upon a time, in a world not unlike ours, there lived a couple, a man and a woman, who were blessed with the most precious gift life could offer, a newborn child. Their joy, however, was short-lived. An unfortunate incident, as cruel as fate itself, snatched their bundle of joy away from them. Their world that was once filled with the sweet coos and gurgles of their infant was now consumed by an echoing silence that was deafening. The pain of their loss was profound, a kind of agony that clawed at their hearts and left them gasping for breath. They were bound by their shared grief, a silent understanding that only those who have loved and lost could comprehend. Every memento of their child, every remnant of his fleeting presence, was a stark reminder of what they had lost. Their home, once a haven of love and laughter, now felt like an empty shell, a cruel mockery of the life they thought they would have. In their desperation, they began to seek answers, solutions. They wanted to fill the gaping void that their child's departure had left in their hearts. Their love for their lost child was so immense, so all-encompassing, that it pushed them to the brink of reason. It led them down a path that many would fear to tread. In their quest for solace, they stumbled upon an unthinkable solution. A chance, however slim, to bring their child back to life. It was a solution steeped in mystery and danger, a solution that defied the laws of nature and the boundaries of their understanding. But their grief was so profound, their desperation so great, that they were willing to risk it all. In their deepest despair, they made a fateful decision that would forever change the course of their lives. When pushed to the edge, people show what they're truly made of. Our tale takes a darker turn here, as desperation prompted the grieving parents to venture into the realm of the unknown. In their darkest hour, a stranger stepped forth from the shadows. A figure, shrouded in mystery, with eyes that hinted at ancient wisdom, and a voice that echoed with an eerie calmness. This stranger promised them the impossible, the return of their beloved child. The stranger's proposition was simple and yet chilling. He offered them a deal, a pact if you will, and in return, he would breathe life back into their lifeless child. The terms seemed straightforward, at least on the surface. They were to offer something of equal value, a life for a life. In their desperation, they failed to question the vagueness of this term. What did it mean, a life for a life? Whose life was to be offered? But the stranger's words were enticing, a siren song, and they were too blinded by their grief to see the lurking danger. The stranger presented them with a parchment, age-worn and brittle. It was inscribed with words that danced and twisted in an unfamiliar tongue. He urged them to sign it, to seal their agreement. And in that moment, their judgment clouded by the promise of their child's return, they took the quill. With shaking hands and misty eyes, they signed their names, etching their fate into the ancient paper. They failed to understand the true nature of the deal. They didn't know that they were bargaining with forces beyond their comprehension. They didn't realize that they were playing a deadly game, a game where the stakes were their own souls. But all they could see was the chance to hold their baby in their arms again, the chance to undo the tragedy that had befallen them. And so they signed the pact, unaware of the consequences that lay ahead. Sometimes what seems like a miracle can be a curse in disguise. After the unthinkable had happened, the couple found themselves teetering on the brink of despair. They'd made a pact with the unknown, a desperate plea to restore their son's life. And as if by some divine intervention, their prayers were answered. Their baby boy, who had been snatched away by the clutches of death, was back in their arms, alive and well. Their joy was immeasurable, a beacon of light piercing through the shroud of grief that had enveloped their lives. It was as if they had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite their son's story, to fill it with laughter, love, and life. The couple threw themselves into this task with fervor, cherishing every moment, every milestone their son reached. The boy grew up surrounded by love, oblivious to the circumstances of his rebirth. His first steps, his first words, his first day of school. Each of these moments was celebrated with an intensity that spoke volumes of the couple's gratitude for their miracle. Their home was filled with laughter and happiness, a stark contrast to the sorrow that had once consumed them. However, beneath the veneer of this joy, a tiny seed of worry began to sprout. The couple couldn't shake off the feeling that their miracle came at a price. They started noticing subtle changes in their son. He was different, not in the way every child is unique, but in a way that was inexplicably unsettling. As days turned into months and months into years, their worry grew into an undeniable fear. Their son was changing, becoming someone they barely recognized. It was as if he was living in a world of his own, a world that was slowly pulling him away from them. But as the boy grew older, it became evident that something was amiss. Every action has a consequence, and every debt must be paid. This timeless truth began to manifest itself as the boy, who was once a miracle, came of age. Life, as they knew it, started to take a strange turn. As the boy grew older, odd occurrences began to punctuate their once peaceful existence. Things that couldn't be explained by the laws of nature or logic, like whispers in the wind, shadows dancing in the still of the night, and the boy's inexplicable knowledge of things he had no way of knowing. It was as though he was privy to an unseen world, a world that held secrets too profound for the human mind to comprehend. The boy's parents watched these happenings with a sense of mounting dread. The joy of their miracle child began to be overshadowed by a growing unease. Their hearts were filled with a chilling fear, the kind that gnaws at the soul, whispering of unspeakable things to come. As the boy grew into a young man, the incidents became more frequent, more intense. It was clear something was amiss. The boy, once a beacon of their happiness, had become a mirror reflecting back their past misdeeds. His presence was a constant reminder of the deal they had struck, a pact they had made with a force they didn't fully understand. Then came the realization, a cold, hard truth that hit them like a thunderbolt. They had traded their son's life for something far more sinister. Their desperate act, their unwise deal made in the throes of grief, had come back to haunt them. Their past had caught up with them, wrapping its icy fingers around their hearts. The parents were left grappling with the enormity of their actions. They had wanted to save their son, to bring him back from the clutches of death, but at what cost? The price they had paid was proving to be far higher than they could have ever imagined. The seeds they had sown years ago had sprouted into a tree of troubles. Truth, no matter how bitter, eventually comes to light. And oh my, was it a bitter pill to swallow. The secret buried deep within the folds of time was finally brought to the surface. The deal, the pact that had been made, was finally revealed. It wasn't just any deal, oh no, it was a trade of life for life. An exchange that bore a heavy cost. His parents, desperate and desolate, had made an unwise pact. They had given a promise, a pledge to the unknown, in return for their son's life. It was a debt they knew they could never repay, a price too steep, a burden too heavy to bear. Now, imagine the son's plight. His world turned upside down. The truth of his existence, the reality of his life, was not what he had known. It was a revelation that shook him to his core, a truth that was harder to digest than the most bitter of herbs. He felt like a pawn in a game he never asked to be a part of, a game with stakes too high. His life, it seemed, was not his own. It was borrowed, it was owed, and the time to pay up was looming over him. The struggle within him was palpable. The knowledge of his parents' sacrifice weighed heavily on his heart. He was filled with a mix of emotions: gratitude for the love they had shown, anger at the choice they had made, and fear for the price he might have to pay. His life was turned into a ticking time bomb, a debt waiting to be collected. The revelation sparked a fire within him, a desire to right the wrongs, to break free from the chains of the past. But what happens when the debt collector comes calling? Well, that's a story for another time. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.